Thanks very much, Gay. I'm conscious of the 5-minute restriction, and probably like Manna said earlier, I do have a bit of a tendency to waffle when I get up on these platforms to speak, so I'll keep it short. I see the wine is being cracked open at the minute, so people look a bit thirsty in the hot room, so we'll kick it on. I suppose when I had to think about this, what I thought I'd like to do is really just give you a flavour of my journey, how I kind of came from completing the Leaving Cert to undertaking the accountant technician exams and then moving on to a career in tax. I won't elaborate too much on the Irish Taxation Institute qualifications or syllabus. I'm going to leave that to Amanda just to speak to you a little bit about that. I suppose where did it all start for me? I did the Leaving Cert in '92. I suppose the school where I did the Leaving Cert, my brothers had attended the same school, and it was very much a vocational type of Leaving Cert, a lot of building studies, engineering, that type of thing. I didn't do any business, accounting subjects at all in school, so the natural progression for me was to undertake an accounting course. I did the course 2 years full time in Whitehall, Plunkett College, completed in '94, and thankfully got a job fairly quickly. I was actually placed by Accountant Technicians Ireland, my first role with BDO. It was a tax role, and looking back on it now, I had a couple of options. There was a tax role, there was a couple of accounting and audit type roles, and looking back on it now, I'm thankful that that's the route I chose. Probably what leaned me towards the tax role was probably one of the lecturers on the course, who I think might have worked for the Institute, Willie Murphy, for a time. I don't know if anybody has come across Willie. That, I suppose, the grounding that I got, I suppose the way tax was presented as an exciting career opportunity is really what led me to go into the tax world, as it were, and kick off from there. I suppose over the years I wouldn't quite describe myself as a journeyman, but I have worked for quite a few firms. I worked for BDO for quite a long time, 7 or 8 years. Moved around a number of other firms for shorter periods, Ernst & Young, Ryan Glennon. Worked for a number of years with a guy called Frank Brennan, who would have been one of the leading tax consultants in the country for a long time. Worked for Hayden Chartered Accountants, and my fault for not updating the details with the Institute. I recently set up my own tax practice based here in the city, so that's really where the journey has taken me. I suppose work as a tax consultant, it really falls into, kind of two spaces. There's compliance work, tax return preparation, annual compliance for individuals and corporates, and there's the consulting end of things, which is probably where most people aspire to get after a period of time. What I like about a tax role is it's varied, it's interesting. You very rarely encounter the same problem more than once. There's always little, chinks and turns along the way that you have to deal with. It's a challenging job. The tax legislation in this country, the direct taxes, the capital taxes, stamp duty, VAT, as Eamon, I'm sure, will tell you, the amount of legislation, it's absolutely voluminous, and to try and get your head around that and apply it to a real life situation is something that you can really get your teeth into, and you do get a great sense of achievement from it. I suppose you get a feeling from your clients that you're delivering a tangible saving. Tax, after all, at the end of the day, it is a real P&L cost, and it directly impacts on, the value of an individual's wealth or net assets or a company's bottom line. And if you're contributing something towards that, it's certainly something which is, personally for me and professionally, it's something that you can really get a real buzz off. Tax, I suppose, when you're working in tax consultant, as a tax consultant, and dealing more so in the consulting side of things rather than the compliance side of things, it does open up an awful lot of doors to an awful lot of senior people. Very many of the businesses and corporates out there, the tax planning or their tax strategy is dealt with by people very high up the food chain. So it certainly opens up a lot of doors in that respect, and it also gives you a great opportunity to specialise in a number of areas within the tax field. Particularly with the bigger firms, you'll see that they would have personal tax divisions, corporate divisions, capital divisions, and even more specialised after that. They get into particular sectors and industries and so on. So it is a great opportunity to get involved in that. One thing, and I'll kind of close on that, I'm probably close to the 5 minutes now, if not gone over it. One thing which I think is very relevant and possibly relevant for people in the room is you might look at your own situation and say, well, in the current climate, are there jobs out there? Are there jobs in tax? If I undertake tax studies, is that going to deliver something for me at the end of the day in a year or 2 years or 3 years or however long it takes you to get through the institute syllabus? The old saying, there's two things certain in life, death and taxes. There'll always be a need for people, to have tax advice, to mitigate their tax liabilities, perish the thought of me using this word, avoid their tax liabilities, which is legal. And although, there have been people who unfortunately have found themselves being made redundant because of the economic times, a lot of that happened because of particular sectors they were working in. They were working on property-driven, type of roles, and maybe VAT on property and things like that. There are an awful lot more things that, the bad times, the flip side of the coin gives you a good time. There's a lot of work going on out there now, corporate restructuring, estate planning, people organising their affairs tax efficiently, now while their asset values are down low, preserving what they have made up to now, wealth preservation. There's a lot of insolvency and recovery work, which, there's a huge tax, aspect hanging out of that type of work. I suppose what the government are trying to do in terms of incentivising, research and development work, there's an awful lot of specialists involved in that, intellectual property, tax incentives, just lost train of thought there. Particular sectors which are starting to blossom again, aviation being a particular one, that's a huge field in its own right. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. Generally, one thing somebody else alluded to, and I'll close on this comment as well, somebody mentioned money as well, and about getting paid. That, at the end of the day, that's what you do your job for. My experience over the years generally has been that people in business, I've noticed, will pay for tax advice from a tax consultant, whereas colleagues, perhaps accountants who are also providing very, very good tax advice, no difference in the advice, generally say to me that they find it difficult to get paid the same value. That may be down to the qualification, it may just be down to people's perceptions of the person that they're dealing with, but it certainly doesn't do you any harm to have a tax qualification from the Irish Taxation Institute. Thank you very much.